What is up, everyone? Welcome to another weekly news video. We have about 4 to 5 topics to talk through today, so I'll go through each of those. I'm going to be doing a live stream about 7 hours after you're seeing this video, so please stay tuned for that. If you do have some time to sit down and have a chat with me, I'm going to delve into the Cardporn situation more specifically in that video, but we're also going to touch on it today. Now, quickly before I do jump into today's topics, I want to give a quick shout out to that pretty cool DeLorean that's now on my shelf. So those of you that are regulars of the channel will know that's the first time you're seeing this. I'm a big Back to the Future fan. I now have both. That is a 1/6 scale figure put together by Hot Toys. Very happy to have it. You're going to see some changes on these shelves in the next few days as I do go ahead and start tweaking how I want to display them. But as you can see there, the lights are on. It is pretty freaking cool. Let me know if you collect Hot Toys as well, because they're pretty fantastic figures. That thing's been on pre-order for well over a year. So very happy to finally get it. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk to the Cardporn situation right now. I'm going to talk to this in far more detail in my live stream, so please tune in for that. But essentially, if you've not heard what has gone down, Darren Rovell, who is a very prestigious, writer in the sports world, put out an article the other day talking about a really popular, charity and, consigner, I guess you'd call them, My Grey, as you can see there. I believe that's how it's pronounced, where they were essentially a charity that was selling, game used memorabilia or authenticating game used memorabilia to then be sold on auction houses. And it was essentially done in the name of a, retired and now deceased photographer, a very famous sports photographer. And what Darren has since, come to light, or since found out through conversations with that deceased photographer's son, and I'll go into this more detail in my live, is that the charity, is essentially fake. It's got nothing to do with a deceased photographer, and a number of the items that they are saying are game worn and that they've authenticated and photo matched to a game as being game worn have turned out to be fake. And this is, in the hundreds, if not significantly more, thousands of dollars, right? And it's something that is going to get the FBI involved. Now, for those of you that are a bit confused as to why I mentioned Cardporn, things get a little bit confusing here, because Cardporn have, advertised for this individual, for this charity on a number of occasions. These videos have since been deleted. Since Darren published the article, the charity has taken down their website. They've basically hidden their Twitter. And a bit more information came to light that not only did Cardporn themselves, advertise for this, charity, but they also, supplied them with some of the photos that were part of this, match authentication, this photo matching process. And as you can see with the post on screen, basically at the National, a week before, the man believed to be known as Cardporn gave the photos to the individual. He tried to pass them off to PSA and basically get them slabbed, but PSA declined them as being, fake or non-authentic. So a sort of an interesting one that, Cardporn is maybe not just, advertising or allowing this person to advertise on their platform, but maybe they're involved in the scam in some capacity at the same time. Now, this is all hearsay at the moment. We don't know this for factual, but what is very interesting is that Cardporn have since, deactivated their Twitter account, and the language being used by Darren and a few others suggests that the involvement from Cardporn looks a lot more than what we're seeing right now. And I believe they've also named the individual, but we'll talk to this in my live stream because I don't want to go into too much detail now. But it's pretty strange, because on face value, you see, Cardporn allowing people to advertise on their page, and you're like, okay, yes, they've given them the photos, but what does that actually mean? But the fact they've deactivated their Twitter, raises a few questions. So we'll talk to this in more detail a little later today, or it's going to be, close to 24 hours after seeing this, but it'll be 7 hours after this video gets released. So please, stay tuned. The next thing I want to quickly talk to is a pretty cool video that Neo Cards and Comics put out, so please check it out if you haven't seen it. But most of you guys would have seen Disney Lorcana get, pumped for well over a year now since the promo cards were announced and released. But what is very interesting here is that some of these cards have, already been faked and have actually been graded by PSA and BGS, and a few really sleuth collectors have identified them. And Neo goes through this, in its entirety within his video. He gives references and attributions to the people who basically raised this. So please check it out. But again, I just wanted to raise this to you because number one, I'm not going to talk to all the things that Neo did, but just, again, be very careful when you're going to buy things. I think we're learning, more and more each day that we can't be relying on these third-party graders to give you all the comfort you need. And for people like me that have been collecting, for over 20 years and has been in the card game for that long, you'll know that already, right? But there's a lot of new collectors and a lot of people that are getting into graded cards, or maybe people that are sort of in the hobby to a smaller extent, i.e. they just buy a few cards here and there. They don't pay attention to the big picture. Are starting to get caught out by this sort of stuff, and are also starting to learn these things. Well, hang on a minute, I trust these businesses, but why do they keep making these mistakes? And people are sort of, learning this for the first time. So I just wanted to put this in there today. Number one, to give Neo a shout out so you guys can go ahead and watch the video for yourselves, but also as a reminder to, pay more attention when you're buying these cards, pay more attention when you're going to spend a fair bit of money, do the research, because you literally cannot rely on anyone, right? It doesn't matter if the person selling you the card is your friend, as I've explained before, or you've done deals with those people in the past, or it's from a reputable seller, auction house, grader. You can't trust any of that. And that's a really, sad thing to say, as I always do say, but you guys need to protect yourselves. And just quickly on this as well, this is why I approach my zero cost based approach. I've talked this on the channel where, every single card I buy, I make it self-funded by my hobby, right? I have cards on my PC. If I want to buy something cool, like some of those flawless cards on that shelf, I'll sell something to fund it. And what I also do in that instance is I basically really only buy cards with profit. And if I can't do that in that instance and I want to buy the card because I don't want to miss out on it basically disappearing forever, I'll buy the card, but then before I can buy another card, I'll make sure that I've paid that card back. And I tend to do that with profits, right? I want to basically have every card I own paid for by profits. If you want to understand a bit more about this, I'll put a link down below, or you can ask me a question in the comments and I will link my video. But that allows me to basically collect stress-free, because then I'm not really spending, the money that could be going to my wife and daughter. But also, as I've explained before, if the market dips, right, and it goes down the crapshoot, and all of a sudden I need money urgently, typically what happens in that instance, people get scared, right? Because they're like, well, I paid $1,000 for this card, but now it's only worth $200. I can't really sell it now. But from my perspective, if I've paid $1,000 and I've already made that money back by flipping things, so it's profit, right? So technically the card cost me $0. I could sell it for $200 and still be up overall. Yes, I could have sold it for $1,000 before and been up $1,000 overall, but we're collectors, so we like to keep things as long as possible. So let me know your thoughts on that, like I said, and I can share it if you want. Now, very quickly, I put out a video 2 days ago talking about this patch swap. So if you haven't seen it, do check it out. One thing I forgot to mention is some other options that these manufacturers could implement to protect us in this instance, because we spoke about how, if a patch is removed, it's pretty hard to know if that is the case, right? And one of the suggestions was the greatest to have a visual database, right? That you as a collector go on and see that every single card that was produced in that set, this was NT, same thing for Flawless or Eminence, you type in your card, your serial number, and you can see it on the website. Well, hang a minute, it's the same patch. One thing that I forgot to mention is that Futera do this. Now, their website doesn't really work at the moment, so it doesn't really work anymore, but for their cards that have game use patches in there, they used to have a serial number on the back, and you used to go to the website, type that serial number in, and not only would it show you what the card, was meant to look like out of the pack, but it also shows you exactly where on the jersey your patch came from. And I think it also used to give you information as to which game that jersey actually came from, which is, pretty freaking cool. Now, I don't think that feature works anymore on their website, because I've got a few cards that I've tried to look at recently and it doesn't work, but it has in the past. But that's something, again, we should be expecting from the likes of Topps and Panini moving forward. They're not going to do it, right, because they're too lazy and they don't need to do it. And one good thing that a viewer raised in the comments is I kept referring to us being the end consumer, right, the person buying these cards. But as this person did correctly explain, they're manufacturing the cards. Their customer that they're seeing as being their main customer, the only person they care about, is the person who buys that retail box, which is the breakers or somebody that wants to bust and rip, right? So basically, once it enters the second-hand market, they don't really give two shits. So they're not going to implement things to fix this sort of thing. And as that person did correctly state, that's the wrong position for these manufacturers to take, because they should be wanting to uplift the hobby as a whole, protect all buyers post those just buying the box and ripping it. But unfortunately, like they said, they don't really care. So it is what it is. I'm keen to get your thoughts on that one as well, but I just wanted to quickly add that because I forgot to mention it. And just quickly, the last thing is going to be this Panini settlement. So basically, in the last 48 hours, I think it was, Panini essentially did a settlement outside of court for this copyright infringement with the Stat Smasher produced by Wildcard. As you can see on screen, the left is the Panini Card Sports Card Radio. Did also talk about this. The right is the Wildcard Stat Smasher. It's basically a copy and paste job by Panini. They literally use the same everything except for the player's image, which is pretty crazy. But what most don't know is Panini settled for $25 million USD, right? So obviously if this would have gone to court, they would have been exposed a lot more because this is a pretty clear-cut copyright infringement. As we have explained in the past when we spoke about this, basically lawsuit popping up 12 months ago, they've also done this with some downtowns as well, which is really concerning. But the thing I want to quickly highlight is $25 million is a lot of money, right? And you could say Panini makes, upwards of $1 billion. So what does that mean to them? Well, what it means is when you factor in them losing the NFL PSA licenses in the last fortnight, the fact they have the ongoing lawsuit with Fanatics for the antitrust piece, and then a couple of other lawsuits, having to pay out $25 million when your business is essentially hemorrhaging is a big bloody deal. So sort of keep an eye out for what this might mean for Panini moving forward. Now, again, let me know your thoughts on this topic. I just wanted to quickly bring that to your attention as well. Once again, how freaking cool is that DeLorean? I'm in the process, like I said, of fixing these shelves. I bought some lighting that I can try and turn on for you now. You guys are going to see that it basically turns to crap once I turn them on. So I'm trying to play around with this so it looks a little bit better when I'm trying to do my videos and things like that. I really do suck with lighting. So if anyone has any tips on how to approach this, please let me know. But you'll see the second I turn these on, it essentially washes out the background. They're just too bright and I don't know what the heck is going on. So I'm going to play around with a few things, but I think it's pretty cool. Let me know, like I said, if you do collect hot toys, and if not, why not? Because they're pretty freaking cool. They are expensive, but if you're a fan of Back to the Future, that DeLorean is freaking like this big. So freaking awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my live in about 7 hours time. So stay tuned. Cheers.